Tonight, Damascus capture. Assad regime ends in Syria as rebels claim Damascus, ending the al-Assad family rule of 53 years. Gains in Donetsk. Russia seized one more settlement in Donetsk, while Ukraine reports fierce frontline battles. Sightings in the sky. Growing mystery over drone sightings in New York and New Jersey, baffling residents. And era's wrap-up. Proud Star finishes record-shattering era tour, putting fun and freedom center stage. All that and more as World News Tonight starts right now.
This is Derana World News Tonight.
Welcome down to World News Tonight, where we've got quite a lot of updates to bring to you from around the world. Let's begin with the unrest taking place in Syria. In the last 24 hours, rebel forces took control of the capital Damascus, ousting longtime President Bashar al-Assad from power. Across the country, people are celebrating in the streets. The Assad family had ruled Syria with an iron fist for 5 decades. Russian media reported Assad is now in Moscow seeking asylum.
History unfolding at lightning speed in the Middle East. Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad overthrown by rebel fighters. His presidential palace overrun. His people oppressed by decades of dictatorship, discovering his enormous wealth. The rebels declaring victory from the state TV studios, saying the city of Damascus has been liberated. The tyrant Bashar al-Assad has been toppled. Across the country, symbols of the Assad family regime defaced or destroyed. Jubilation and relief in the streets, celebrating a moment few could see coming less than 2 weeks ago. This man saying, it's been 13 years that we've been waiting for this day, and today is our day. The Islamist leader of the main rebel group, Abu Muhammad al-Golani, who cut ties with al-Qaeda years ago, is now projecting a more moderate image, speaking triumphantly at the historic Umayyad Mosque in the capital city, Damascus, saying, "This victory, my brothers, is a new chapter in the history of the entire Islamic nation. It is a turning point for the region." Russia's foreign ministry now says Assad has stepped down as president of Syria and ordered a peaceful transfer of power. Russian state media reports he and his family are now in Moscow. Assad, who was in power for more than 24 years, oversaw the brutal crushing of the revolution against his regime through more than 13 years of civil war. The UN says more than 7 million Syrians are displaced within the country, with over 6 million more seeking refuge abroad. Russia, Iran and Hezbollah had helped him cling to power. But with those allies distracted in wars in Ukraine, Gaza and Lebanon, the rebels seized the opportunity. 900 US troops are currently in the country as part of the fight against ISIS, Biden indicating that will continue, going on to say that the US had conducted airstrikes against ISIS just today. In a Truth Social post Saturday, before Assad was toppled, President-elect Trump writing, "This is not our fight. Let it play out. Do not get involved."
South Korean President Yoon survived an impeachment motion in the opposition-led parliament that was prompted by his attempt to impose martial law after members of his party walked out on the vote.
That's after Yoon survived an impeachment motion in parliament on Saturday, thanks to members of his ruling People Power Party boycotting the vote. Opposition protesters shouted at the lawmakers who walked out on the vote, calling them collaborators. The motion failed to gain the minimum 200 votes to make it count, forcing National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-shik to declare it scrapped. The entire nation is watching the decision being made here at the National Assembly today, Woo said. It's very regrettable that there wasn't even a vote on such a major national issue. Outside Parliament, protesters flooded the streets demanding Yoon be gone. The president shocked the nation late on Tuesday when he gave the military sweeping emergency powers to root out what he called anti-state forces and overcome obstructionist political opponents. Backlash forced him to scrap the order hours later, but the move plunged the country, a key U.S. military ally, into its greatest political crisis in decades. Earlier on Saturday, Yoon apologized to the nation in his first public appearance since rescinding the martial law order. "I leave it up to my party to take steps to stabilize the political situation in the future, including the issue of my term in office," he said in the televised address to the nation. While he did not offer to step down, His party's leader Han Dong-hoon later said the party had decided that Yoon would resign in an orderly manner. Han told reporters that until Yoon leaves, he would be, quote, effectively excluded from his duties, and the prime minister will consult with the party to manage state affairs. However, Han has a history of clashes with the president, and it was unclear if he was speaking for all party members. There was no immediate word from Yoon on Han's comment.
Taiwan's Coast Guard said that 7 Chinese Coast Guard ships have been carrying out gray zone harassment against Taiwan. Video and still images released by Taiwan's Coast Guard showed what it identified as Chinese Coast Guard vessels 2901 and 1301 out at sea, closely watched by Taiwan's Coast Guard personnel. China currently has nearly 90 Navy and Coast Guard ships in waters near Taiwan, the southern Japanese island and the East and Southeast Asia seas. Separately, Taiwan's military set up an emergency response center and raised its alert level on saying China has set up 7 zones of reserved airspace and dispatched naval fleets and Coast Guard boats to waters around the island. Russia reported that it had seized control of one more settlement in Ukraine's Donetsk region, while Ukraine reported on the same day that fights in frontline areas remained fierce.
The ministry also reported that its forces had repelled multiple Ukrainian offensives and launched several counterattacks in the directions of Kharkiv, Advika, Donetsk, Zaporozhye and Kherson. The ministry also stated that Russian air defense systems had shot down 88 Ukrainian drones. On the same day, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported that there had been 146 fights on the front lines. In the direction of Pokrovsk, Russian forces launched 43 attacks on Ukrainian positions. Ukrainian forces have repelled 36 of these attacks, with 7 battles still ongoing. In the directions of Kharkov, Russian forces carried out 31 attacks, as reported by the Ukrainian side.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. On the road to the White House now, US President-elect Donald Trump said he would absolutely consider withdrawing his country from NATO if European allies did not pay their bills. An interview, Trump said European nations have taken advantage of the US on trade, but the US continues to defend them. He added that if the European countries stopped paying their dues, he would consider leaving the military alliance. During his previous term in office, Trump had pressed the European nation to increase their spending, calling for at least 3% of GDP to be allocated to the defense for equitable contribution. Meanwhile, Pope Francis has called on US authorities to commute the sentences of death row inmates. The appeal was made during the Pope's weekly Sunday prayer at St. Peter's Square as he asked for prayers for the death row prisoners and for their death sentences to be commuted and or changed.
Pope Francis, a longtime opponent of capital punishment, has consistently advocated against the practice, even urging the Catholic Church to update its teaching in 2018. It is unusual for the Pope to mention specific countries when addressing the issue, making Sunday's remarks notable. According to the non-profit Death Penalty Information Center, there are approximately 2,250 death row inmates across the United States, including about 40 held in federal custody. Some U.S. Catholic organizations have also called on President Joe Biden to commute federal sentences before his term ends.
Also in the US, swarms of large drones, some described as big as cars, are flying over neighborhoods in New Jersey and New York. One even reported to have flown over a meeting of Pentagon leaders in California.
The FBI now investigating multiple reports of unidentified drones flying over New Jersey, some as large as a small car. And today, a large drone seen here, also described as the size of a small vehicle, flying over a California event where Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was in attendance.
More drones in the sky, Rockaway, New Jersey.
The New Jersey drones, initially spotted in the northern part of the state, now being reported further south. Sightings also now being reported in New York City. Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella calling on the FAA and FBI to expand their investigation. Residents alarmed by the number of sightings. Jonathan Lace, a pilot himself, shot this shocking video overnight of multiple car-sized drones near the Essex County, New Jersey airport. So concerned by what he saw, he contacted the FAA.
What is that?
With many questions and few answers, residents and officials alike on high alert as the mystery in the sky deepens. George Solis, NBC News, New York.
An explosion and fire in an apartment block in Hague has killed at least 3 people. Local authorities say the incident also left several injured. The Hague Mayor Jan van Zen said at a press conference that investigations are considering all possibilities, so the exact cause of the explosion remained unclear. Emergency responders are continuing to search for the missing persons in debris of the collapsed building, but chances are of finding survivors appear slim. Authorities have not disclosed how many individuals remain unaccounted for. The apartment building is located in residential areas not far from the city centre. Nearby residents reported hearing a loud explosion followed by screams early on Saturday morning. Romania's top court annulled an ongoing presidential election after accusations of Russian meddling. The rule had the entire process would have been rerun.
It would have pitted Calin Georgescu, a far-right pro-Russian candidate, against pro-EU centrist leader Elena Lasconi. Before the first-round vote in November, Georgescu scored single-digit numbers in opinion polls. He then surged to a first-place finish that raised questions over the result.
Decizia Curții Constituționale de astăzi.
On Friday, he called the decision a coup. Lasconi condemned the ruling, saying it is, quote, illegal, immoral, and crushes the very essence of democracy. If elected President, Georgescu, who wants to end Romania's support for Ukraine against Russia's invasion, would upend the pro-Western politics of the EU and NATO member country, and would push the country closer to Central and Eastern European countries with populist, Russia-friendly politicians. Romania's top security council declassified documents on Wednesday that said the country was a target of, quote, aggressive hybrid Russian attacks during the election period. Romania's anti-organized crime prosecuting unit said it was launching an investigation into Georgescu's campaign after analyzing the declassified documents. Russia has denied any interference in Romania's election campaigns. Romanian President Klaus Iohannis's term was due to end on December 21st, but he said on Friday he will stay on until a new president is elected. In Bucharest, residents said they were upset about the court's decision. Far-right parties gained a third of seats after the first presidential round and a December 1st parliamentary election, though the ruling Social Democrats emerged as the largest grouping and hoped to cobble together a pro-EU coalition government. The parliamentary vote was unaffected by Friday's court ruling.
Going into a short commercial break, we'll be back with more world news tonight. Welcome back. The reopening ceremonies for the Notre Dame were as much celebrations for the people as they were rejoiced at the cathedral's resurrection from fire. Outside, the Catholic faithful shivered the prayer in cold and rain, of course, and yet were ecstatic as they said they wouldn't rather be anywhere else than there.
Thousands gathering inside the hallowed halls of the Notre Dame Cathedral for the first time in almost half a decade. An invitation mass 5 years in the making. Notre Dame's 8,000 pipe organ once again filling its walls with music. At the ceremony last night, the Archbishop of Paris knocking on the doors of the cathedral before they swung open and erupted in song, symbolising the reopening of one of the most sacred spaces in Christendom.
Je me tiens devant vous.
President Macron paying tribute to the firefighters that risked their lives to save the nearly 900-year-old landmark. The firefighters getting a standing ovation. The reopening ceremony bringing in a who's who of celebrities and world leaders, including Prince William, First Lady Jill Biden, President-elect Donald Trump, and Trump supporter Elon Musk. Pharrell Williams performing outside Notre Dame. This inspiring revival happening years after that tragic fire in 2019. The flames tearing through the church, the spire collapsing as onlookers watched helplessly below. In what would become Europe's biggest restoration project in a generation, more than 2,000 artisans banding together to help bring this Parisian icon back to life in its traditional style.
And finally tonight, mainstream pop singer Taylor Swift took her final bow while closing out the Eras Tour in Vancouver, Canada.
Welcome to the Eras Tour!
It's the end of an era for Taylor Swift and her fans. 152 shows, 54 cities across 5 continents. The final stop on the Eras Tour tonight in Vancouver, Canada. Over its 2-year run, an estimated 11 million fans attended. The concert tour breaking records as the highest grossing in history with an expected $2 billion in sales. And those friendship bracelets, a major part of the fan experience.
So make the friendship race, let's take the moment.
Swift's message of inclusivity, life-changing for some young fans, like 12-year-old Ellie Serrano, who was on a mission to collect 1 bracelet from each show.
Taylor's really helped me.
Swift's many costume changes, inspiring fans to dress up too. 11-year-old Henry Hinson's Halloween costume going viral, catching the attention of Taylor's team.
They are giving us 2 tickets.
And as this era's era comes to a close, another will surely begin.
Thank you very much for joining us on World News Tonight. We'll be back with the latest updates from around the world tomorrow. But until then, do stay tuned as we've got Mekhala Dandenia joining you next on Nightly Business Report. I'm Akwal Qureshi. Good night.